What's up, guys? I'm here with Andy Archer, pitcher for the Savannah Bananas. And Andy, I have to say, I think you're probably one of the happiest guys in all of Banana Land. Can you talk about your joy and how your faith plays into that?
To be honest with you, I think my faith is my joy. I know it's like not a true spiritual gift, but I really think that like that's something that God blessed me with as I'm saved, is just like this kind of overwhelming, immense joy. And I'm so honored to hear that, you know, people are able to see that. But yeah, it plays such a huge part in what I do here, not just on the field, but off the field as well. Because I feel like I have so much joy, like there's overflow. And when there's overflow, you're able to share with other people. And so I give so much credit to my teammates, like Rack, and DR Meadows specifically. I think just spending time with those guys and just godly men and role models for me has been a total game changer. Yeah, this year, and just being part of this team has been just incredible.
Obviously, there's a lot of those highs in baseball. Can you talk about maybe some moments in your baseball career where you've really had to lean on your faith?
Yeah, great question. The first one that comes to mind is probably the best example is when I had Tommy John surgery, and I had it the day after my 21st birthday. So I'll never forget that. It was like a great birthday present. But the truth is, the months that followed that were some of the most lonely months of my life, and I didn't always walk faithfully in those. But I just think about like when I came back and the ways that God provided me and opened doors for me after that. For example, like specifically, you know, having a chance to go play at the University of Hawaii after that, and just the way that God unmistakably and undeniably opened doors and showed me that that's exactly where He wanted to be is quite honestly such a huge part of my testimony. One of the craziest things that ever happened to me, probably the craziest thing, was like a total just stroke of God, and like just I think one of the most clear ways that He has shown me that I'm exactly where He wants me and that everything was working out together for His good. So after I graduated from Georgia Tech, again, this is after COVID, back to back with Tommy John, 2 years out of baseball basically, and then coming back playing a season, having my dreams crushed in the MLB draft and not hearing my name selected, deciding to transfer to the University of Hawaii, and walking in faith at that time and just trying to honor God with my decision making and trusting Him that even though He didn't, you know, allow my dream to come true for the draft, that He had something better, and just trying to rest completely in that. I got on the plane to move out to Hawaii, and what happened was I was just going to cover on my Bible at the time, and I sat down in between a woman and her daughter, and I was just reading my Bible, and they started to talk to me because I guess they were saying it was kind of abnormal that like a man my age would just be reading the Bible on the plane. And we just talked the whole time, and at the end of that plane ride, landing in Honolulu, I didn't have anywhere to live. Just the school was starting so soon after the MLB draft, and I hadn't quite had time to iron out those details yet. I asked that woman if she had any advice for me on like living and like, you know, where should I be looking, and do you have any friends that are renting? And she invited me to move in with her and her family, which was crazy after just meeting him on the plane. And I moved in the next day and lived there for the next 3 years. And obviously, like, she is a very faithful believer, and she's been an amazing woman in my life as like a motherly figure. She's my Korean mom. I call her that endearingly. And so, again, that was just one of those times where God made something impossible happen, and providing for me, you know, and just just proving time and time again that his way's better, and He's working on things behind the scenes that you can't even imagine. And when we kind of get like a glimpse into those plans and like we see the fruit of some of that, it's like the most reassuring feelings. It makes for the best stories for when we share the gospel with other people, and just being able to share about what God's done in my life tangibly to provide and bridge the gap where there really was no other option. So that's kind of the craziest story I think that happened to me. So it was just a really, really amazing part of my testimony.
Yeah, it's crazy that path brought you here now to the Bananas.
Yeah.
Can you talk about times maybe that the Bananas and this culture has helped shape your faith? Yeah,
I would say that's the biggest thing is like, I've never been surrounded by a higher quality group of men, just as far as character goes, than I am right now with the Bananas. And I mentioned Rack and DR already, and I think I can't say enough good things about them. And just as they're men who live lives that I want to live. They're both amazing like husbands to their wives and leaders within our clubhouse. And they're so good at what they do. They're such amazing leaders, players, friends, and husbands because they're first submitted to God first. And that's such an amazing example for like me and all the other guys to see. And so yeah, like just having like guys like that I can just be real with, that are so motivated to want to spend time with God and in His Word and in prayer, and being obedient. And the fact that I have those every day, and not just role models, but they're my friends as well, has been a total game changer for me.
What's some advice maybe that you could give a younger athlete that's trying to balance that faith on the field aspect or even behind the scenes with also trying to play their sport at a high level? What's some advice you could give to an athlete like that?
Yeah, good question. That's a tough one because there's so many different things I would want to say, but I think one thing that really kind of encompasses well what I want to say is just to be kingdom minded and just remember, like, rest in the truth that we're saved and that we have, the chance to spend eternity with God in heaven because of what Jesus did on the cross. And when you're kingdom minded and you're focused more on eternity than in the moment, it really puts things into perspective. And you're reminded that the sport, in hindsight, it really doesn't matter too much. Obviously, we want to succeed. We want to do well. We want to do things to the best of our ability and prepare and all that. But in hindsight, what's really more important is that we are taking as many people with us to heaven as possible. And I think for young athletes, just being kingdom minded, remember that your identity is because of what happened on the cross. That should change a lot of things. And so I would just tell any young athlete to really contemplate what that means, that your eternity is already made up. If Jesus is your Lord, then you're already saved. Yeah. And when that's true, there should really be an outward reflection of what's going on internally like that. So I really just love that advice of being kingdom minded, and letting that kind of change things and contemplating on it and just kind of thinking about what that really means for you as an athlete, and as a friend and as a teammate, as a son or a daughter or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, that's some really good advice there. I mean, for any young athlete that, is struggling with that, can you maybe give a scripture or maybe just a truth from the scripture that you've really leaned on throughout your life or your baseball career?
Yeah. One I really, really like these days is John 14:6, and Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father except through me. And there's so much gold in there, and I really love, just because today there's so much craziness and confusion and chaos. But really just being reminded that Jesus is the only truth. There's so many people that say honor my truth or respect their truth. And I think that's dangerous because we need to agree that Jesus is the one truth. And that is a freeing reality, but it's also a harsh reality in that He is truly the only way to salvation. And I don't want that to be, aggressive or harsh towards anyone, but really it's just life with Jesus is so much better. And experiencing life in unison with my Creator, because He generally wants that for me as His beautiful creation made in His own image is incredible. And I try to lean so hard on that when I'm, going through harder times or failing to be obedient in some ways, because really just that life is so much better. And John 10:10, Jesus also says that He's come that we may live life to the full. And that's also a promise of Jesus as the one truth and the one life and the one way. And so, yeah, there's so much gold in that verse, and it only gets better and better as times get crazier and more chaotic and more confusing, just leaning on Jesus as the one truth.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Andy. This has been great. Thanks for sitting down and doing this. I know it's busy with the games and the tour going on right now, so I really appreciate it.
Legend.
Let me know who you think I should interview next. If you think there's a player that you'd be really interested in hearing, just let me know. But yeah, thanks, Andy.
Sweet.